Bikes. Odds are you've ridden a bike, but when was the last time you've ridden a bike? My guess is your answer is either within the last week or you can't really remember when the last time was. And I think this is really because there are only three groups of people when it comes to bikes. You got one group, which I'm gonna call the Dutch. Also known as bikes are part of their day-to-day life. Group 2 I'm going to call the Mike Tebbs of the world, aka my dad, aka they're going to get on the bike multiple times a week for exercise, whether that's outside on trails or the roads or inside on like a stationary bike or rollers. And then there's Group 3, which I'm going to call the Jason Tebbs of the world, aka me. AKA, oh my gosh, I get next to no physical activity in my life despite having both the physical and monetary means to do so. And I slightly resent myself for the lack of physical activity I get in my life. Oh God, save me from this hell. I mean, just like, look at this. I got a whole bike hanging from my wall. I have bike shoes. I have bike rollers so I can ride my bike inside. You know, just in case the weather gets a little bit chilly. But honestly, I can't remember the last time I got on that thing. And honestly, that feels like a huge disservice not only to myself, but it brings up a broader conversation about our communities around us. See, that bike I own is used for exercise primarily. It's considered a road bike. It puts you in a very aggressive forward-leaning position. It's really not comfortable in the slightest, and it's not going to be used to haul anything around anytime soon. Sure, you can use the bike for a commute, but you're going to have a backpack on you to carry the things that you need to take to and from work. And odds are you're not going to be taking this bike to the grocery store because, again, you're going to need a backpack, so whatever you buy is going to have to fit in that backpack. Now, I don't care all that much to go on endurance length bike rides at this point in my life to get exercise. I'll do that other ways that are more interesting to me right now. What I do care about is just being able to go to the grocery store that's just down the street on a bike and getting what I need and being able to get all of that home. So what I should be buying is a bike more like this. Much easier to get on. You sit in a much more upright, comfortable position. And it has a rack on the back so you can haul things in a tote or a basket. But there's still like one big reason why I don't buy a bike like this, and I'll get to that in a second. You see, this type of bicycle is what's considered a Dutch type bicycle, which is that first group I mentioned in the beginning. Because you can use this bike to get errands done, you can use it to get to work, and you can use it for leisure. But the Dutch also have a huge advantage over us Americans in one key component. The Dutch have biking infrastructure. And America needs biking infrastructure. So let's drop in on a random grocery store somewhere in America and see, one, where's the closest house? And two, what's the biking infrastructure like? I found a random Whole Foods in the Denver area and decided to do the street view, which landed me in the parking lot. And in this quick scan, we can see it is full of cars. I saw maybe one or two bicycles. Going out onto the road, we can see there doesn't appear to be any sort of dedicated bike lane. So it'd be assumed a bike would have to be on the sidewalk, but that's supposed to be specifically for pedestrians. And I have to go down the street, around a corner, and I think these are apartments. So that's great for those specific apartments. They could get to that Whole Foods fairly easy on a bike. However, they will have to be on the sidewalk for the whole duration of that commute. And not every road or strode in America has a sidewalk. America just isn't a bike-friendly country. It was built on an outdated American dream for the car, and cars are only getting bigger every year. So I'm going to rapid fire some reasons why people might not want better bike infrastructure and the actual reasons why better bike infrastructure would help. I don't want to ride a bike everywhere. Hey, that's great, and you won't have to. The idea is to give people the option to ride a bike, not get rid of the car in its entirety. Bikes just want a safer place to do their thing. I don't want a bunch of bikes and bike paths taking up space. Here's the thing, bikes take up a fraction of the space cars do, and a bike lane takes up the fraction of a space a car lane does. If more people get out of their cars and onto bikes, that leaves more room on the roads that you're driving on for you to drive. Okay, but I don't want to interact with bikes. They never obey traffic laws and they're getting in the way. Trust me, bikes don't want to interact with cars way more than cars don't want to interact with a bike. Because in a collision, 10 times out of 10, the bike loses to the car. This is why people want dedicated and separated lanes of traffic for bikes. It'll keep the cars out of the bike's way, and it'll keep the bikes out of your way. Wouldn't this cost a whole lot of tax dollars? Roads cost a whole lot of tax dollars. I did road construction for one summer in a county up in my state, and let me tell you, it is easy to see how quickly these costs add up. But what causes the wear and tear on these roads? It's the weight of vehicles. So bike lanes need less maintenance. Also, in the winter, they're much easier and quicker to clear. And getting more people in bike lanes will keep people off of roads in their heavy vehicles, meaning those roads will degrade at a slower pace, which means we can save tax dollars from having to maintain those roads as much. Okay, but where I need to go is like really far away. Look, I get it. My work is 40 minutes away in a car from where I live. Luckily, I don't have to go into the office every single day, but when I do, I still need to use a car to get there. Look, cars aren't going anywhere, and you're still going to use them for the long trips. It's the trips down the road to the local grocery store that need to be a little more efficient. Those trips are what's really going to benefit from this. Okay, but like, I'm too out of shape or too old to ride a bicycle. First off, I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. Getting the correct bike is pretty paramount for what you're planning on doing with it, which is why I introduced that Dutch style bike. They're built so you step through them, which means they're a lot easier to get on, and you're in that much more comfortable riding position. Bikes are a form of exercise, so the more you can incorporate them into your day-to-day lives, the better shape you'll be in. Sure, but biking's really scary. It is, at least in its current state. When the bike lane is right next to a lane of cars that's going 40 miles an hour, it's no wonder people don't want to use that bike lane. I would even consider myself more experienced than the average American when it comes to riding a bike, and there are plenty of roads I will refuse to ride a bike on. This is why the dedicated bike path or lane is so crucial. Let's take my dad for instance. He's that group that's on a bike multiple times a week, whether it's inside or outside on the trails. He has a huge benefit over most people in that he has miles and miles of trails accessible outside his front door. They're separated from cars, they're on an old rail line, so he can get to a lot of places without ever having to interfere with cars that much. He has thousands of miles and plenty of hours under his belt when it comes to riding a bike. And even with all that experience, there are plenty of roads that he will refuse to ride on because he doesn't feel it is safe enough to do so. He gets lucky with those trails right by his house, but not everybody has that. At the end of the day, I just want a greener, healthier, bike-friendlier America. Because being able to get places without having to rely on a car is actually very freeing, especially for people under the age of 16 who can't drive a car. And knowing that your kids are going to get to their destinations safely is incredibly comforting. And if that doesn't convince you, gas is expensive right now, and you can offset that cost by using a bicycle. I just think that's a cherry on top. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. Go ahead, give it a like, share it with people, get the conversation started about biking and having more bike accessible paths where you live. I think it can do everybody a world of favor if we transfer to a more bike-focused society. Hey, have you ever noticed that in the movie Cars, where the society is holistically built for sentient cars, that their infrastructure looks exactly like the American infrastructure we live with today? Yeah, it's almost like what we built isn't actually meant for people. I wonder who benefits from that. Maybe just car manufacturers and big oil, but who am I to say?